Record.
When we think of gender, and more importantly, what each gender role is, we think of common stereotypes associated with it. This perception of what gender is and how it is presented is an issue regarding equality and general expectations put forward by society. One aspect of gender representation shown is modern-day relationships and how the female's role is generally more dominant and more controlling over their partner. A prime example that shows this is through a quick 20-second advertisement for Gumtree.com. When this commercial is initially viewed, you wouldn't think much of it in terms of how gender is represented in a stereotypical way. However, it is a subtle contrast between the couple and their roles that makes this commercial so cunning, and subtly implements the fact that this is the norm in modern-day relationships. This is a prime example as to how the media has a major influence on society's expectations in regards to gender. This reinforces these stereotypes and continues such representations from occurring and being relatable and therefore worth remembering, which is the goal of these advertisements, to inadvertently create controversy and therefore generate free promotion. A constant cycle in which encourages bias and acceptance of these representations. In terms of this specific advertisement, some key points when gender is labelled include primarily when the male is sitting on the couch lazily watching TV while his wife is running around doing all of the work for him. 2, when the wife comes in and says that I'm selling all of your stuff on Gumtree, giving the man no real option, and when he is opposed, nothing occurs from it, and the female gets her way and sells the items. And 3, at the end of the ad, when the female comes over to demand the money that the male has received from these items that she has just sold. That is a quick summary as to what happens in this short commercial. But what does this mean in the broad scheme of things? How is gender constructed through these points? And how is each character present this successfully? Well, primarily, the male character can be explained as 3 things: lazy, clueless, and unhelpful. This is shown through his clothes, which are grey and bland, his posture, which is slouched and reluctant, his general observational skills of his wife's existence, and his unwillingness to help. And therefore, through his constructed appearance, draws us to the conclusion that he is in fact less dominant, and therefore unintelligent and careless over his appearance. This is now juxtaposed from what the wife is shown to be, and is essentially the opposite of her other half, portraying that she is in fact the typical housewife, including her being controlling, independent, presented cleanly, hardworking, strong-willed, and organised. As the focus turns to the wife, it is clearly foregrounded that she is a controlling force of the relationship, running around and organising the home as well as her husband. This is conveyed through the way she drags the man's belongings throughout the house, and instead of asking whether or not he would think that it would be a good idea to sell the items, states that she is. Giving the husband no real power or sense of independence, as symbolised through these items, in which she dramatically throws into the air as if she is throwing away his right to have a say over what he does. This is further constructed through the bag of money, in which represents the notion of the housewife furthermore being the dominant force. As well as these key aspects and the symbols, cinematic effects complement these issues. Through camera angles such as the following, it privileges the idea of gender and how gender dominance in a relationship is relevant in modern terms. These camera angles primarily consist of panning, close-ups, and focus points. Panning is constant for the majority of the advertisement, in which shows the man on the couch once again and his wife doing everything for him, who is shown doing the housework and more importantly organising the man's life. This image is established through the close-ups of the female character, who is shown as relatively good-looking, careful over her appearance, and hard-working, while on the other side the man is captured as completely naive and utterly useless, as shown through his emotionless facial expressions. Finally, this is reaffirmed through the use of focus points, which instantly changes as soon as the camera pans to the female and she comes into the view. This subtly says to the viewer that she is in charge and that she is the one who should focus on. Through these portrayed images, and their symbols, it is constructed that women in this relationship is dominant, and therefore the media represents women in modern-day relationships to be the enforcers and the organisers. This is well as showing to bias to the female role, also shows the male role as less relevant and stereotypically portrayed as a negative form. Although in terms of women's rights, this is a step in the right direction and is pro-feminist, in which is a positive outcome. However, still implements the marginalised ideals of what your gender restricts you to do.